Okay. Where are we at? Oh, it's magic. You know, oh. Trigonometry. I haven't seen them in a while. I think they've been doing stuff. It's just not been kicking up in my algorithm. So let's see what they are up to.
This is a 30-year-old guy, a father of 2 young children, who are now going to grow up without him. When you label and smear somebody as a fascist and a Nazi, you are putting a target on their back. We've got to be honest and acknowledge that this is not a both sides issue. It just isn't. If we're going to talk about people monetizing this tragedy, I mean, what we've seen in the last 4 days on
Miss
the
Guzzi.
right, I think I'm probably as horrified by that as I am by the celebrations of Charlie Kirk's assassination. The United Kingdom protest, you and I both went along. That is another thing that, you know, there's been a lot of rhetoric about.
Smearing them as far right, smearing them as racist.
I love that
Do you not
meme.
understand where this
I
is
seriously
going?
love this
And a
meme
week after
so
Charlie
much.
Kirk, you're continuing to use
See
the
if I
same
can get this
rhetoric,
up for you
the
guys.
same language,
I would
the
just
same
pull it up on
words,
my
and I'm
computer,
angry.
but
And I'm angry because it's dangerous. Because this is a powder keg.
Relax.
This is all
It's not an
serious.
ad. I just wanted to let you know that you can watch this video
I
without
don't know
any
if you're gonna be able to
advertising at all.
read that.
No interruptions, no pop-ups, nothing. Just go to triggerpod.co.uk
No, I don't
or
think
click
you
the link
are gonna
below
be able to
and join
read that.
thousands of our supporters who watch all our interviews
It's like
with exclusive bonus content.
the name of the apartment
ad-free.
complex and some like beautiful landscape, and
Francis,
it's
so
like the
it's been
apartment
exactly a
complex
week
is just
as we sit here
garbage.
recording this since Charlie Kirk was assassinated.
Just
One of the things
section
we didn't
8.
want to do is talk about it straight away.
I've seen
and I
so
think
many
you
that
see
are like
why.
that. Just
We
the
didn't
most
wanna
beautiful
talk
name
about
that you
it
can
while
think of.
emotions are raw.
It's
And
paradise.
emotions are very raw.
The lodges.
They were raw for both of us.
Backwoods.
2 days, literally
Yeah,
48 hours
paradise.
before he was killed, we were booked to
Grotto,
actually interview him. And both you and
cottage.
I were really excited about this. We saw Charlie
It's just a
as
little
being
little
a
dumpster.
really important figure.
Looks like
in MAGA,
serial
in
killers
modern-day
live there.
Republicanism. He was the face of conservatism, particularly for young people in
Alright,
America.
anyway, I'm gonna shut
and
up.
in the UK. You know, this was somebody who was a galvanizing force for young people across social media. I think he had a significant impact in the election. People talk a lot about Rogan or the Theos having Trump on and JD Vance's. I think people underestimated the real impact that Charlie had amongst people who were around the age of 30, but also the younger people as well, galvanizing them, making them think in a more conservative manner. This guy was a real force of conservative and Christian politics.
It's interesting you say that because you think you're right that a lot of people underestimated him. I don't think many people who knew him underestimated him. From everyone we've spoken to, particularly since his murder, lots of people were saying, like, the moment we met this guy, we knew he was going to be president one day, and we were all going to be working for him. But actually, I would confess that I was one of the people that underestimated him because, for the reasons actually that you've outlined, when you say, well, he's the Christian conservative voice, I'm like, we've had those on the show. I don't really need to know much more about what that group of people think. Not because there's anything wrong with what they think, but that point of view has been well represented on Trigonometry. But then I saw a clip of him on Gavin Newsom's podcast, and they were talking about why the left is so unwilling to engage in debate and why their ideas are so fragile. And I thought it was incredibly insightful, and that's when I was like, oh, okay, this guy's actually a real genuine thinker. This is someone who has ideas of his own, who can articulate and explain things. Not that he's heard from someone else, or not that he's read in the Bible or whatever. This guy's actually smart and talented, and that's when we wanted to interview him. And as you say, 2 days before, it was confirmed that we were going to. So, but it's not, I don't think it's just about that. You know, I don't think the reason we felt stunned and shocked by what happened is that of our proximity to him. I know from speaking to lots and lots of people now,
You don't have what it takes.
it was just a very shocking moment for a lot of people because
Oh, I didn't know you
partly,
could do that.
some of the things that many of us have been saying for a long time were actually coming true, in the sense that, you know, if you keep labeling people as Nazis and fascists, you are
What do you think's
going
gonna
to
happen?
create a situation where some crazy
I know.
guy
I annoy
thinks
myself,
it's
but it's true.
And I've made this point many, many times.
They think it's
because of
true.
you. If you thought that our country was about to actually be overrun with Nazis and fascists, wouldn't it be your duty
Duty.
to pick
Yep.
up a rifle and go and fight them?
Absolutely.
Would it not? Wouldn't that? I mean, that's what our grandparents did. When they thought this country was about to overrun by
It was
Nazis,
like, how are you gonna let Hitler
went
take
and
over?
enlisted and
That's
fought.
the
Isn't
message.
that what
You're
you
letting
would
Hitler
expect
take over.
young men to do?
Well, what the hell?
Exactly. But
And yeah, the age-old thing. It's like if you
And
could
this
go
is
back in
the-
time
this
and kill
is
baby
the
Hitler,
very
would you
big
do it?
dangerous
And
situation
everybody was
that we
saying
find
yes there
ourselves in
for
this
a lot of
country,
years. That was like common
particularly
theme, like 10,
where
10
people
something,
are
15 years
incentivized
ago.
to use this language. The more hyperbolic
Yeah, if you could go back in time and kill baby Hitler, would you do it?
Choice of language, the more
Everybody was like, fuck
reactionary
yeah,
you
dude,
are, the
prevent the
greater your engagement, the
Holocaust?
greater
Oh
your
yeah.
engagement,
It's
the
like,
more
but killing
followers
a
you
baby,
get,
I
the
can
more
see
followers you
the
get, the more
whole
notoriety that you
dilemma
have,
there.
and ultimately the more money
It's
that you
just-
generate. That is a perverse
It's just this
incentive
entire time. It's
structure
like
for
you've
the
been calling him
commentariat
Hitler.
class.
You've been calling
That
all
is
of us Hitler.
perverse because what it does is it incentivizes
yeah.
the worst type of behavior. And
Yes,
we've
it does.
seen time and time again.
And
People on the left, but
you
we're now seeing it with
accuse
people on the
Trump
right.
and the
Some
right
people that
of
I know and that we've even had on this show, I'm actually getting
flaming
very
the
worried
fires.
by the way that they're speaking online. Where I'm going, this is the type of argument
like breathing
that
wind
the left
into
were
it.
doing
It's like,
before, and it's
yeah,
completely
Trump
lacking in
does.
nuance.
I will
It's
give him that.
inflammatory,
But it's usually
incendiary,
in
and
response
it's
to what they're
appealing to our
doing.
worse in our most base instincts. And that is a very worrying place to be because
So that's
there are
where
people
it's weird that Destiny's
in
like,
this
yeah, the right
country
needs to
and in
chill
the
out
United States who have
first
very
before anything can
health
happen. And
problems,
it's
they're
like, no,
vulnerable,
the left
or they're
needs to chill
just
out first before anything can happen.
psychotic or whatever word
They
you
need to
want
own
use,
up to
evil
a lot of the rhetoric they've been throwing
and
out.
you're giving them a pass to go and do the most despicable things a human being can do, which is kill another person.
Yep.
Well, the permission structure is definitely. I think there's something really, really important for us to delineate here, because I've seen this when I've said, well, look, when you call people Nazis and fascists, this is what you're doing. People go, well, are you saying words of violence, Constantine? Oh, I got you. No, you haven't, dickhead. You haven't got me, because words of violence is a slogan that was used to say, you've said something that offends me, my feelings are hurt, and that is the same as violence. That is not the same as saying when you label somebody a fascist and a Nazi, i.e. a threat to democracy and a threat to our country, you are putting a target on their back. Not only are these statements not the same, in actual fact, the claim that words are violence is another way of justifying the killing of Charlie Kirk and people like him. Because what you're saying is, his opinions are offensive to me, that is the same as violence. Well, if it's the same as violence, then you're necessarily, just if you look at the way people think, if I use violence towards you, most people would
Did I get
agree
three?
that you're entitled to use
I got
violence
two, I
back
know that.
to me.
Can't remember if
So,
I got the third.
We're not saying words are violence. On the contrary, we are saying words are not violence. And this is another important part of this whole conversation. Words are not violence, and when someone says something that offends you, you're not entitled to use violence against them. But when you label and smear somebody as a fascist and a Nazi, you are putting a target on their back. And the thing that I think we have to concede here, I mean, you talk about the reaction from some people on the right, and we'll get to it, because a lot of it has been really constructive and sensible and accurate and wise. Some of it's been deranged, as you'd expect. But if you want to talk about deranged, you have to concede now that there is a sizable number of people on the left who openly condone and celebrate the murder of their political opponents. That's a fact. That is what we saw. And, you know, look, for balance, we should also say that there are a lot of reasonable people on the left. I don't know if you've had, I've had hundreds of messages from people who are going, look, I don't agree with Charlie Kirk. I don't even agree with you, frankly, but this is outrageous. And the way people reacted to this is
Thought I heard a gold there for a second. I was like, what?
Unacceptable. And I agree for our country. I agree for our society. So that we have seen that. But also, let's be honest, among young people in particular, the belief that words are violence and therefore you're entitled to use violence against people whose words you disagree with is widespread now.
Of course, and we saw that with the case of the Oxford Union president, who debated Charlie Kirk at the Oxford Union. When he heard that he'd been assassinated, he used the words "let's go," and then openly endorses violence against political enemies or those people he deems to be
Jeez.
incorrect or wrong. And
I don't know if I heard the "let's go" part.
So you're going at the most prestigious debating chamber in the world.
Did I know that? Did I think I heard he said something fucked up, but I like, "let's go" is like,
to be in that particular
that's bad.
You are advocating that it is acceptable if somebody says something that
Let's-
you disagree with, that you think is wrong.
That's
you think
repulsive.
it's acceptable to kill them. That shows a moral rot at the very heart of our culture, and the left need to be quite. And there have been people on the left. Cenk Uyghur's actually been very good on this, who have condemned this. But everybody needs to come out and be blunt and be
Yeah.
honest and say no. We
Anna-
cannot have this. And
yeah,
Charlie said
Anna
this
stood up
himself.
for
There was a very moving interview he said where someone asked him why he does this, because he said, because if we stop talking, we're going to end up at civil war. But when you kill your enemies for talking, what are you going to stop them doing? You're going to stop them talking, and if we carry on down this path, that's where we end up.
Yeah, and look, a lot of the political debate about... I mean, look, I respect Cenk for the way he's reacted to this. I also have to say, and I said this to his face when I was on Piers Morgan, and we shouldn't shy away from this. Now, the way he's reacted to this particular incident is an attempt to dial down the tensions, and I think he's right to do that, and I respect that. But you also have to acknowledge that when we had him on the show exactly a year ago, he was one of the people who spent 20 minutes trying to convince me that President Trump is a fascist.
Yes, that's
And
what I was
not-
just thinking. It's like
and it
he
wasn't
calls
very
everybody
persuasive.
a fascist.
So, if this
Donald
is now
Trump-
the
listen,
opportunity for a
brother.
lot of people to look
Donald
at the
Trump is a
rhetoric and dial
fascist,
it
and we all
back,
know it. You know it. I know
I
it.
think we've got to encourage that and support that and respect that. And if Cenk is one of them, brilliant.
Oh.
Good on him. And I think a lot of the things he's been saying since have been really, actually, exactly the way the left should talk about these issues. But I also think there's been far too much of this, and people often accuse me of like being a both sides guy and looking at this and looking at that. And I do try to be objective about things. But I have to say, we've got to be honest and acknowledge that this is not a both sides issue. It just isn't. Yes, of course, dialing up the rhetoric has happened on both sides. And you mentioned media commentators. It's also true of politicians.
Yeah.
Politicians are incentivized to say, if we don't win this election, the roof is going to fall in on the world. And we are living in heated times, and it does feel existential for a lot of people. But there is a difference between saying, fight like hell, this is, if we lose this election, your country's gone and whatever. That ratchets up the general pressure. But when you call specific individuals Nazis and fascists, that is a completely different thing. You're putting a target on their back because you're saying this specific person is like this person in history who we all have been trained to hate, rightly so, for the last 70, 80 years. If you're saying this person is Hitler, you are putting a target on their back. That's just a fact. And that is not the same as ratcheting up the pressure, which both sides have been doing and both sides need to stop doing.
Yeah. What this shows is a complete lack of education. Because I guarantee, if you sat down with these people who were throwing these words about and going, could you please explain to me the political ideology of fascism? What are the tenets of fascism? Just explain it to me. We can talk communism, we can talk liberalism, but you've said fascism. What does it mean to be a fascist? What do you believe in? What actually is fascism? The ideology at its root, at its roots. I don't think they'd be able to explain that. I don't think they'd be able to give a coherent explanation of what fascism actually is. So, to them, it's just almost just a label. It's something that I disagree with. It's something that is morally reprehensible. And what they're not doing is understanding how serious that accusation is. It's like the term paedophile. If you didn't understand what that meant, and you just thought, oh, this is a despicable person, oh, he votes reform, oh, you're a pedo. Well, if you say that enough time, people are going to be like, what? Then why is he walking past the school? And we're just like, well, I'm going to pick up my daughter. No, you're a paedophile. Then what happens? That person is going to get severely hurt.
That's a
You
that's a
have to
pretty good
actually
point. That's a
understand
pretty
what
good
it is
point.
that you're accusing somebody of. Because this isn't just a label.
'Cause
it has a meaning.
I didn't even
Fascism
really
is a
put that much
political
thought into that
ideology. Understand it.
approach or that
and
outlook
stop
on it.
using that word. And the same with Nazism.
And the other
Because,
thing is
like,
you saw as
you and
well,
I might
think
know what
that
Nazi
there
means,
are these
but
echo chambers now. I mean, there are a number of people. Stephen
let's
King, I
let's
think,
just
was
take a
one of them.
look at our
Alistair
society right now.
Campbell
The
here in
average
Britain as
the
well.
average
They
kid
both
coming out of high
wrongly
school can't
tweeted
read past the
that
8th
Charlie
grade
Kirk
level,
was
I think they
somebody who
said.
that gay people should be
And a
stoned.
lot of them can't even
They
read in
shared this
general,
to
but they're still
millions of people.
graduating somehow.
And you're going,
And it's
you
like, okay, so
clearly
if that's the case, do they
must
really
know
truly
literally
know what a
nothing about
Nazi
Charlie
is?
Kirk.
And if you're
Because
just calling everybody
I
a
didn't
Nazi,
follow his
they
work
they
closely,
really legitimately
but
think
I
people are
broadly
Nazis.
was
Not just
aware of
being
his
like,
work.
oh, you know,
And there is no
he's
possible
using,
way
you know, right-wing
that
rhetoric,
you
or
can believe
the
he said
Nazi.
that
It's
and
just
know
like,
anything about him.
I think
Because you
some
just
of them
know
are
that is not
do
the
it
sort of person
in a way that
he
it's like
was,
tongue-in-cheek,
is
and
not
they
the sort
kind
of
of
thing that
know,
he would have
but
said. And in any case,
yeah, some
we've got
people
into the
probably
politics
were
of
like
it quite
legitimately
quickly.
like, no, they are.
The thing that
Oh my God, they're
we need to say,
Nazis.
look, I've said it for a
Holy
week now, and
crap,
maybe that's why
we
we've
have
been
to get
open
rid
with
of
it.
them.
This
You
is a
know, that's
30-year-old
the
guy,
thing.
a
That's why
father
it's
of 2 young
dangerous.
children
It's like, you got to
who are
stop
now
saying
going
that
to grow
shit.
up without him. And at the end of the day, that is the only thing that matters here.
And it's been 10
That is
years.
the only
It's
thing
been
that
10, they're
matters.
still doing
A
it. It's
man's
10
life has
years
been
of
taken
that.
away,
And it's
and he's been
not even
taken
true.
away
It
from
hasn't
his
been true
children
since
and his
day
wife
one. So like,
for speaking to people
bad.
on college
Bad,
campuses,
bad, bad.
which is exactly where this kind of robust debate needed to happen.
Yeah.
That is what happened. That is what happened. And I don't know what the right word is for how wrong,
Where's that
evil,
echo?
and horrific that is. And for anyone to celebrate it, I just think
Nope.
they've got some kind of they have been failed very badly by their education system. And you know, I don't know if you remember this, but if you remember in 2018 when I turned down that safe space contract, and a lot of people were saying to me, Konstantin, why are you making such a big deal about it? It's just
Is that it?
students.
No?
It's just people at
Oh,
university.
it's on top here.
You know, they'll grow up and
I'm
they'll be
Retiven.
fine. No, this is what I said at the time. You don't understand. 10, 15, 20 years from now, these very same people who are now these stupid students who are celebrating someone being murdered, they're going to be in charge of the country. They're going to be making decisions. They're going to be running things. They're going to be running banks. They're going to be running companies. They're going to be running political organizations. They're going to be running the country. And they have been indoctrinated with this horrific ideology, and they think it's fine to kill people now, some of them. It's gross.
Look, of course it's discussion, but I think also we have to accept as well that social media has played its part. In that, when these people go online, they see these people not as real people, but as avatars. These are avatars. They're not real people. They don't interact with them every day. They don't see them. They're not their friends. They're not, well, you know. And so they don't. So if somebody is an avatar, they're not human. If they're not human, it's very easy to dehumanize them. Call them Nazi, call them whatever you want. Because what is the impact? It's not like I'm walking up to you at a bar and going, I think you're X, Y, and Z. You'd turn around to me and go, and then a very real encounter happens because it's real life. So if somebody dies and they're not human, then it's like a computer game. I mean, social media in many ways is a glorified computer game. So Charlie is assassinated. Your enemy in the computer game is killed. You celebrate. And I think, as terrible as as I've just explained, I think that's a large part of it. And I think we, as a culture, as a society, as a generation, and the younger generations, we're in real danger of losing our souls and our humanity.
I don't think you're wrong about that, but I also have to push back on this as well, because I think you're right that the effect is there, but I don't. If somebody on the left, or somebody that I personally, someone who's, let's say, uber woke,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to name names because, you know,
Uber.
for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
That
Uber.
people would assume that I hate because they're my political opponent. If they were shot in front of an audience of people they came to debate and killed in that way, I wouldn't. I have social media. I wouldn't be celebrating.
Yeah.
Right? I would be horrified.
Yeah.
You pick out a person that you think I hate the most in the world, whoever that is in your head, right? And imagine that happening to them, and all I can think of, this is horrific.
Yeah.
Whoever did this obviously has to be punished to the worst extent, but we've got to like stop this. This is completely unacceptable. And I have social media. I'm on Twitter all the time, but I don't want to see my political opponents killed. So what I'm saying is, we can blame social media all we want, but there's something else going on here.
Yeah. I also think it's a
That's a fair
generational thing
point.
as well.
Yeah.
I think if you've been
I'll
raised
give-
on this stuff,
I'll give
I think-
Constantine that
not
credit.
that you're going to, but I think you're more likely to believe and think in that way. I genuinely do. I think that one of the things that we're very lucky is that we remember a time before social media. We remember a time before all this stuff happened. So because you remember a time before it happened, you have a deeper connection and rooting with reality. And I sometimes
That's
think,
fair. That's fair too.
look, I
That's
think
a
it's
pretty
the
good
ideology.
point.
Of course, the ideology plays. a
If
part.
this is
I'm
all
not
you lived in,
saying
would
it
you be a
doesn't.
little more
I'm
unhinged?
also saying that
Because that kid
this,
was young,
the way
wasn't
that
he?
we're interacting
He's
and
pretty
staring
young.
at our screens, I think it's destroying a generation mentally.
I think it's unhelpful, but I'm sorry, Francis. I'm not down with this. People need to take some fucking accountability here. The teachers, the college professors,
Yep.
the influencers, the people who go on social media, the podcasters, all the people that have created an environment where young people now think violence is acceptable. I don't give a shit about their use of social media. Like, this is not the right way to be thinking about this. And I'm not going to let anyone off the hook with this. It's not acceptable.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I just think that is a fundamental part of the puzzle as well.
I agree. No, that part I agree with. But I don't think that should be remotely an excuse for this way of thinking. The reason that they think this way is first and foremost what they've been taught. What they've been taught ideologically to think about their political opponents. And this decade we've had now of constant demonization of your political opponents as Nazis and fascists, all of this, that's where this is coming from. That's where this is coming from. Social media, of course you're right. But the thing with social media is social media amplifies everything.
Yeah.
If you put good stuff out, that also gets amplified by social media. Look, my Instagram feed is, because of what I'm following on there, is just people talking about parenting in a funny way and whatever. My point is, good messages also get amplified, right? So at
And
the end
dogs
of
and
the day, it's about
cats,
people who are putting out
ducks.
messages.
Yes.
They're the ones responsible.
Like ducks
Agree.
a lot.
And they need to take responsibility
They're
for it,
funny.
absolutely 100%. Because I think, and I see a lot of
Ducks.
these people, I go, do you actually, genuinely, do you actually think about the impact this is having? Or are you just thinking in a purely monetary, very, very functional business? Oh, this clip did X, this clip did Y, this got X amount of followers, this got Y amount of engagement. Is that how you think about it? Or are you actually thinking to yourself, this is having a very real world impact? If you've been following the immigration debate, you'll know how different the headlines can look depending on where you get your news. We use Ground News to help us step outside the echo chamber. It shows you how the same story is
Oh, yeah.
framed
Look at my
differently
thing, maybe.
across the political spectrum, so you can compare headlines and decide for yourself. Take the story about a massive immigration
Yeah, it's
raid
telling
at
me
a
to go up.
Hyundai plant in Georgia, USA. Follow along at ground.news/trigonometry. Using Ground News, straight away we can quickly see that the story is being covered by outlets across the board. However, scrolling down the page, Ground News allows me to easily compare the headlines. We can see CNN, which is firmly on the left, highlighted that nearly 500 workers were taken, while Fox News, on the right, framed the raid as bold action. Ground News shows us that broadly, left-leaning outlets focused on immigrants and workers, center-leaning outlets simply reported the number detained, and right-leaning outlets emphasized illegal workers. Ground News compiles these divergent perspectives into one place. Another feature we use heavily at Trigonometry is their blind spot feed, which shows you where coverage is lopsided, lets you compare headlines across the political spectrum, and helps you identify what's being emphasized or ignored. If you care about getting to the truth by seeing things from all angles, Ground News is essential. Go to ground.news/trigonometry and get 40% off their unlimited Vantage plan.
Ah, I see you. I see you.
That link again is
look, especially now, look, you can, social media, YouTube, etc., they're new mediums, they're new technologies. They fell into the hands of a lot of people who are not prepared to deal with that level of influence and power. And so perhaps there's some understanding to be had for, you know, maybe people, like you say, genuinely didn't realize that what they say and hear has an impact out there. Well, we know that now. We know that now. And those people need to really have a wake-up moment right here, right now. But if we're going to talk about people monetizing this tragedy, I mean, what we've seen in the last few days on the right,
It was up there.
I think I'm probably as horrified by that as
That's
I am by the
fine.
celebrations of Charlie Kirk's assassination. I mean, there are people who are literally going, oh, let me tell you how Israel killed him. We know this guy who killed him from the text messages, from the messages on the ammunition, which were all anti-fascist, quote unquote, all of this. This was like a trans ally guy who was in a relationship with a trans person who thought Charlie Kirk was too hateful, clearly a leftist, a crazy leftist guy. There's now people going, well, I've got text messages that insinuate that Charlie Kirk was under pressure to support Israel. Tune into my live stream. I'm just going, you have lost your humanity, if you ever had it.
And that again just shows you just and the thing that I find that I struggle to understand is I go, how much of this is just sheer naked greed in all senses of the word? And how much of this is ideological? How much of this is Israel is behind everything bad that's happening in the world, whether it's Epstein or the assassination of Charlie Kirk? And how much of this is just you going,
It's hard to know. It's hard to know. But I just think you said it before we started. It's like, I think the Douglas Murray quote.
yeah,
A flare has gone up, and now we know where everybody is. And we saw the people, very few people, but influential people, who before we even knew anything, started to try and make it about Israel or other things. And you're just going, you're not a serious person. And that's why I don't even want to name names. I've written stuff about, you know, the woke right and the Candace Owens and whatever. I'm not even interested now. It's time to give all these people the Alex Jones treatment, which is just, look, you've got your audience and you say whatever you want, and that audience will be big, but no one serious is going to take you seriously anymore, because you're just discrediting yourself.
yeah. And I think when you see those people, you actually go, if you haven't understood who they actually are, if you've thought, you know, they've said certain sensible things about BLM or, you know, the riots or whatever it may be, no, the mask is well and truly slipped. And you see the grotesque underneath. And then you have to, and now it is your job as an adult to make the decision. Do you continue to follow? Do you continue to engage? Do you continue to amplify this person? Or do you look and do you think to yourself, actually, no more?
And these people, they were Charlie's friends. They were Charlie's friends.
I don't think they were.
Well, they claimed they were. He invited them to his events. They spoke at his events. And while his widow and children are grieving, they are profiteering from his death with conspiracy theories that are completely the opposite of the truth. Because we know from what
Well, there it is.
the evidence points to the fact that this was a trans-related ally, leftist, quote-unquote, anti-fascist crazy guy. But these people who claim to be his friends are literally profiting from his death. I actually cannot imagine anything more disgusting. Imagine this, God forbid, happened to one of us, and our so-called friends were using this to get clicks on their YouTube channels while your family were grieving.
Is that it?
It's as disgusting
I think it
as
is.
the people on the left who celebrated his death. It's just as disgusting. And there's no other way to say it. And I think they've all, in my eyes, I will never ever take any of them seriously in anything they say ever again, because they've just shown who they are.
Absolutely. And that what they've shown very clearly is that the most important thing for you is engagement, its views, and its money. And if that's the most important thing for you, that's your incentive structure, then why are you going to be truthful? Why are you going to behave with decency, honesty, and integrity if the most important thing for you is those things? If that's the top of that, if that is the top, if that's the most important thing, then naturally all your behaviors are going to lead to that thing.
And it's weird because, you know, with my Russian background, I'm about as cynical as you can get. But I was not cynical enough to imagine this kind of reaction. I imagined people celebrate. I knew people would celebrate because people celebrated when Thatcher died. And,
Yeah.
and look, at some level I can relate. I'm not saying this is how I will think. But, you know, for our
To this
generation
level.
in this country, Tony Blair was evil. Like what he did in Iraq was evil,
Yeah.
objectively.
Yeah.
And we all knew it at the time. We all opposed the war, etc.
Cool.
I'm not saying I will celebrate when he dies because I will not. But I can see how somebody might.
Yeah.
Right? So at least I sort of, it's horrific and as we've talked about, completely unacceptable, but I can sort of see how you might get there. You might get there. But with this, I was not cynical to imagine. Like what I did imagine, and it is happening, you know, we had the US Attorney General Pam Bondi, for example, start talking about, you know, well, there's free speech and there's hate speech and we're going to crack down on hate speech, right?
Yeah,
Now,
this
this is,
bitch.
and this is the interesting thing, because this is another example of why this is not a both sides issue. Because the moment she said that, literally everybody on the right went, no.
Yeah.
And they started quoting Charlie Kirk's own quotes,
Yeah.
saying there's no such thing as hate speech in
Yeah.
America. The First Amendment, you know, doesn't
Yeah.
curtail people's right to say things like that.
And
the
good for them, because
and the
honestly,
pushback
it's
was
like, yeah,
instant. Because on the right, all of these ideas have been debated.
that's why I give some grace to
and
the right.
people know where they stand.
It's because they actually
On
have
the left, there's
principles.
a whole
They
different
actually
narrative
stand by
about
it.
That's what I expected that. And I expected what we're now seeing, which is, look, we should talk about this because this is a live conversation as well. As we sit here this morning, Jimmy Kimmel has just been put on leave, is it?
Yeah, he
Taken off air
it's
indefinitely.
Indefinitely.
Right? Because he said the shooter was a MAGA guy
Jimmy
Yeah.
Kimmel,
in one of his monologues. We'll talk about
time
that.
to
And
go
also,
home
we've
now.
seen a lot of people be sacked from their jobs or fired from their jobs for celebrating Charlie's death and things like that. And it's quite an interesting one to adjudicate from our perspective. So, what do you make of these two strands?
So with Jimmy, and I'm going to put my cards on the table, I'm always pro-comedian. I'm always pro-comedian. I will always stand up for comedians because I believe that over the past few years, we swung so far over the other way where people were getting cancelled that I actually, unless somebody does something particularly heinous, I will always be pro-comedy and I will always be comedian. I think Jimmy obviously had information. It was wrong. He was given the wrong information, or he saw information that was wrong. What happened? He made a mistake. Am I comfortable with with what's happened? No, I'm not, if I'm being honest.
I'm not saying I'm not going to give my opinion either way just yet, but I think look. I'm a former comedian. You're a current comedian, and I totally get that instinct. But I also don't think this comedian defense is getting overused. There are quite a lot of people who say things that they actually mean, who are serious political commentators, or at least taking as serious political commentators, who use the defense of being comedians the moment they're caught lying.
Yes.
Right? Bassem Youssef, a former guest of ours,
Yeah.
before there was any evidence came out at all, he said on Twitter that Charlie Kirk was killed by Mossad, right?
Yeah.
And when he was challenged on this by Piers Morgan, he said,
not totally sure yet.
I just, you know, I'm a clown, I'm a comedian. I was joking.
Yes.
But he wasn't joking.
Yeah.
He wasn't joking.
Yeah.
And he's not a clown. All you've seen him do for the last year is give his serious opinion about it.
Yes.
And when you blur that line, you don't have that excuse anymore.
Yeah.
And with Jimmy Kimmel, we can have a conversation about him being taken off air. But I also think it's unfair to pretend that he is a comedian. In the same way that I think it's unfair to pretend, and I don't think Bill would do this, that Bill Maher is a comedian.
Yeah.
Bill Maher has hosted a political show that has elements of comedy.
Yes.
But
lots of
people on the
jokes,
left said to me repeatedly, I just get all my news from The Daily Show. I just get all my news from
Yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel, right? Because the point of those shows is to talk about politics and culture with a punchline at the end. but you also have a responsibility to communicate the truth. And you say he was given wrong information. I am sorry, mate. This has been the biggest story on the news for the last week.
Yeah.
The police have released plenty of information about the motivations of the shooter. They've released his text messages. They've released the information that was on the ammunition. How are you getting this wrong like that?
Okay, so that's a fair point. But I see certain things as being different. I think what Bassem does is Bassem presents...
So is it taking me back down to that one area?
I don't think. Bassem presents himself as a serious political commentator.
Right.
Which is fundamentally disingenuous that he then retreats to that position.
Yeah.
He also spread a conspiracy theory, knowingly, and he admitted that in the clip, which is reprehensible and utterly disgusting. It's anti-Semitic, vile. So there is no excuse, and I do not defend Bassem, and I utterly condemn him. With Bill Maher, that is a serious political show. I agree with your point.
It's also got jokes, though, just like Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah. I see Jimmy Kimmel as being more kind of... I haven't seen the Jimmy Kimmel show in a long time, but I see it as being...
It's one of the reasons that also they're not that bothered about cancelling, because the ratings apparently going through the floor.
Exactly. I always saw Jimmy Kimmel as being much more of a kind of fluffy, light entertainment show than a political show.
Come on, man.
That's the way I saw it.
Fine.
Yeah.
But he is presenting information to the public about which he then does jokes.
Yeah.
When you insinuate that this person who killed Charlie Kirk
Was MAGA, yeah.
you are spreading a conspiracy theory. This is the thing, again, right? There are a lot of batch crazy conspiracy theories on the right. And they're loved and appreciated by many people with large audiences on the right. And I dislike that. And I've always said that I dislike that. And a lot of, all the fuck, start with Pizzagate and work your way down, right? But the left has got away for a very long time with spreading conspiracy theories of the worst kind, while claiming that the right is conspiratorial. No, no, no. If you go on TV a week after Charlie Kirk is killed by a left-wing radical, and you say he was a MAGA guy, imagine it was the other way around. Imagine a major left-wing figure had just been politically assassinated by someone from the right, and
Nobody would take you seriously. Yeah, the entire left is going with that narrative. And it's like, that's how easy it is to dupe them.
What would happen? Yeah,
Just throw something along with their narratives and they'll buy it. Hook on a sinker. They won't think about it.
Misinformation.
Yeah.
Right.
They want it to be true so bad that they will just grab onto it. Even if you show them verifiable evidence, like I did in the Rittenhouse case, with one person specifically, it's just like,
to communicate information to the public. You
I'm
have
gonna have to unfriend you. Sorry, bro.
and that is not an acceptable breach of that.
It's like, dude, it's,
in my opinion.
I wasn't even aggressive. I'm like, dude, it's literally all right there. They're lying to you.
My instinct is
This is
always
like,
when it comes to
here, here.
But it wasn't
All verifiable. It's right there. They're straight up lying to you. Those narratives.
satire. It's him expressing his
It's like,
opinion.
nah, I'm just gonna have to
He
unfriend you. It's like,
basically
you...
This guy was killed.
I don't know how to... You can meet a horse in water, but you can't make him drink type thing.
Satire's making a joke.
It's like, I don't know what else to do for you if you... Like, I have the truth for you in my hands,
If I say
ready to go, and
Foster
she's
is a
just...
pedophile and then make a joke about how he's the best
Don't want to see it. You just don't want to see it.
But, right?
Yeah.
Which bit
Yeah.
is the joke?
Yeah.
And which bit is the
And it is weird, because it's
That's what I
like...
mean.
Yeah.
To me, like, I started figuring things out.
Pedophile, but you couldn't
But I started realizing that the news were just, like, a lot of the journalists in the news were just liars, and the news outlets themselves were just like, they just doing narratives.
And that's what Jimmy
It
did.
was all fake, basically. When I figured that out, I was like, oh, you
Culture.
just like, I was pissed.
You can get away with saying it's just
It's weird to me that people want it, like, they want more of it.
Yeah. Look, I agree. I think deep down the concerns are that when we look, Bassem, like I said, but with Jimmy, I just worry that it's going to degenerate into political point scoring, and it's like, oh, we're going to cancel this guy. Now we're going to go after this guy and cancel him. And I'm like, look, what he said was wrong. It was stupid. He should apologise.
and issue a correction.
And issue a correction. But do I want to be in a place where we start going tit for tat cancellations? I don't want to live in that world.
That I agree with, and what I'd also say is, from what I'm hearing, the FCC were involved in putting pressure on his employers, which that to me is troubling, right? Because you don't want the government's, an arm of the government, influencing what broadcasters are allowed to broadcast. So I don't think I'm comfortable with that aspect of it. But at the same time, I think it's a grotesque negligence on his part.
Absolutely.
And if his own network felt that he'd made a mistake that deserved some kind of reprimand, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
You know? And also, in terms of, set Jimmy aside, because I think we've kind of said what we think about it. There's been a lot of this, you know, here's this person who said this in celebration, let's get him fired from this job, that job, and whatever. And again, that's quite a complicated one, because I think we have to be honest that there's a difference, right? If someone is flipping burgers in a McDonald's, I don't see how, however their views are, however evil their views are, I don't think they should be cancelled and be fired from their job for doing that. But at the same time, if you are in a position where you're dealing with the public, or you're dealing with children, you're an educator, I don't think we can pretend that that has no impact. I don't think if you're teaching children, I mean, there was a guy in Canada, his story was in the New York Post, who showed his 10 and 11-year-olds in class the video of the assassination repeatedly, and then explained to them why it was justified, allegedly. So if you're doing that, I'm sorry, you getting fired is not cancel culture. Out the door you go.
Yeah.
And look, extend it beyond that. If, say you are working in a hospital as a doctor or a nurse, in some way you're dealing with patients.
We've seen that, you know, with people supporting Hamas and the slaughter on October 7th.
Right. So if you're in that position, and I am a religious conservative, I'm not a religious conservative, but I am an American religious conservative, I'm going into hospital. Do you think I would feel comfortable being treated for my medical condition by somebody who thinks it's okay to murder people like me? Right? So again, if you are in that sort of position, I don't know that you could argue that people who celebrate violence against people like the people they serve can remain in that position credibly. But I also think, you know, there are positions when that isn't the case, where it's probably a different thing.
Yeah, and this is, again, this is the issue where we actually have to look at it, and we have to be nuanced about this, and we have to have a discussion and go, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, when can you say it, when can't you say it? Because a corporation would go, everybody who works for McDonald's is a representative of McDonald's. They are an ambassador of McDonald's, whether you are in the work...
You're flipping burgers?
Yes.
Are you?
You could, because, you know...
Look, we have an office here. If the cleaner who cleans our office once a week went out and... I don't know what his opinions are.
They're pretty bad, mate.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
Like, are they representing the values of trigonometry? Are they? No, they're not. They're objectively not. I don't even know his name.
Yeah. But that is what could be argued.
That's just not true, though.
Yeah.
A cleaner does not represent the values of the company.
Okay, an accountant.
They don't know. How do they? I don't know my accountant's values. I think his values are money, personally.
Yeah. But if you're KPMG and one of your senior accountants, for instance, starts tweeting...
Senior accountant is a different thing.
Okay, or just a regular accountant. And they celebrate October 7th. Would KPMG not be entitled to fire that person?
I think they... Look, personally, what I'm trying to say is I think there's a line somewhere. And that line for me is about, are you dealing with people that may feel that you actually want them dead based on your commentary, right? That's what I'm talking about. So if I'm going into a hospital and someone is there celebrating the murder of people like me, that I don't think is a tenable position.
I think what we're saying is that it's when it prejudices your work.
Right, when it affects the way you do your job, or at least other people will credibly think that it does. So if you're a cleaner in a hospital, have any opinion you want, equal as it might be.
Yeah, but when, for instance, that you're dealing, for instance, if I was KPMG and someone tweeted about, I don't know, Hamas, and said, I'm pro-Hamas, I'm like, well, can I really trust you to handle this Jewish customer's accounts? Can I really trust you? If you celebrate the slaughter of Jews and Israelis, and you think that's a good thing, can I trust you to handle Mr. Lowenstein's accounts? I personally don't think I can. And that's not an unfair position to be in.
Right. So your point is it affects your work in a material way, or other people will feel that it does. Yeah. So it's slightly more complicated than people are trying to make it out to be, because a lot of people on the right are like, all these people deserve to be cancelled, and people on the left are, oh, look at the right practice in cancel culture. I think it's, as we've discussed, somewhat more nuanced and complicated. You know.
But these things always are.
Yeah.
But when you go on social media, it's much easier to go, these people are wrong, these people are, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want smart, fearless commentary on the craziest things happening in media, politics, and online culture, you'll love the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, hosted by Brad Palumbo, an independent journalist who calls it like it is. The podcast covers viral madness from across the political and cultural spectrum, and no one's safe. He goes after Gen Z TikTok scammers and far-right grifters. He'll take apart progressive media darlings and MAGA influencers, all from a place of sharp moderation, not blind loyalty. Think of it like trigonometry's younger American cousin. Same instinct for cutting through the noise, same appetite for the stories everyone else is too scared or too biased to cover. If you like your commentary honest, sharp, and entirely uncancelable, find Brad vs. Everyone on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
Well, the other thing that has happened since we last spoke is the United Kingdom protest. The video that we did on our channel has done very well. I think it's approaching 700,000 views at this point. You and I both went along.
Yeah.
That is another thing that, you know, there's been a lot of rhetoric about. And look, left-wing politicians, starting from Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London,
Rhetoric.
have had absolutely no problem talking about this as a far-right gathering. And again, there's some nuance to that, which I'm sure we can talk about. Obviously, some of my impressions, not all my impressions, that add to what I saw in the video, but they're in the video. What were your impressions of it?
So my impression is this. Overall, I found it very interesting because I've never been to a political rally. To me, and you're going to say this, but to me, political rallies are largely middle-class things. They're largely middle-class things because middle-class people have the time and the energy to be on social media, get worked up, get angry, the free time to then go down to Parliament Square and protest, wave their little flag, do whatever they want, right? It's a middle-class activity. Revolutions were always started and led by the middle class, right? The thing that I found very interesting is that when I went to this particular demonstration, it was very working class. It was people that I would know from like South London growing up, or being, you know, who'd go down the pub or go and watch the football. I remember watching there was a lot of chanting. It was a really almost odd mixture of politics and football mixed together.
Starmer as a wanker being a prominent feature.
Yeah, which people have chanted at the football week after week.
Yeah.
Chugs? It's my brother, Uggs. It's me.
So that's a
Brother, it's me.
element to it. So I found that very interesting. The vast majority of people that I spoke to, that I went out and chatting with,
Chug pickles.
People, I would argue that the reason they were there is they felt that something is wrong in their country, and they felt for a long time they have been told to be ashamed of their history, their background, their race, their country, and to them it was a demonstration of pride and a celebration of the country. There was a fringe element that I saw, which were drunken, aggressive, occasionally violent, and I saw it happen. I think it was 25 or 26 police officers were hurt.
Yeah, so just to clarify, what we know now is 25 arrests were made.
Yeah.
The majority of those arrests were made among the counter-protesters.
Yeah.
But there was some violence, which people can see in the video that I did,
Yes.
between the police and the pro-Tommy protesters. This was on a side street where people couldn't get to the main protest. And I think they were frustrated and angry about that. But they were violent towards the police, which of course is never acceptable. But for a protest of several 100,000 people, the level of violence was actually surprisingly low for me. Because the one thing, and people can see, someone actually said, you keep talking about, you worry about this being violent. Yeah, it's because we saw a lot of people who had clearly, we got there for what, 10:45, 11? By that time, there were people who'd clearly had about 5 pints in them at least. There were a lot of people who had been drinking. And that's always a worry when people are rowdy.
Of course, and the government didn't. I don't know whether it was government, the train companies. There were very few trains going into London on that day. So what happened is that people would get the coaches down from places like Middlesbrough or Sunderland, North East, North West, and they would get the coaches, some of them as early as 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, to come down. And I was speaking to some people who were on the coaches who said that it was reminiscent of going on an away day to a football match. And let's be honest about this. White working class culture, especially football culture, revolves around booze. You go out, you have a few beers, you get pissed up, you're out with your mates, you have a sing-song, you do whatever else. That is how it is.
By the way, why did you say white? Because I don't think it's white. I mean, there was quite a lot of non-white people there. I know there's a lot of non-white people at the football who are also drinking.
I agree, but I'm talking about people that I grew up with. I'm talking about my dad. So my dad's not a football fan, he's a real man, he likes rugby league. But like when we go out with my family, they start drinking at 12
All I'm saying is
o'clock.
I think football culture is not a race thing.
No, it's not. But I'm talking about like working class culture, white working class culture, which is.
Why is it white? Sorry if I'm being pedantic. Wouldn't black people also go out and have a few pints?
But in my experience, like when we go out.
You're saying you don't have any black friends?
No, I don't have any black friends. But I'm talking about like going for pints. It's a very kind of.
It is kind of a white thing. It seems like it. Going out for a round of beers.
And booze and whatever.
It's just white guys.
I don't see it as much in other cultures. As I do with my own culture.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And again, there's no judgment on that part. It's just how it is. It's how we're brought up. It's how we always.
So there was a lot of drinking from an early.
There was a lot of drinking from an early, and most people were friendly, rambunctious. They were just there to have a laugh. There was banter. There was like, and we saw it. People were very friendly, very close to us, and there was a small minority.
Shit, it is over there.
There was a very small minority who were there, and it seemed like there was an edge to them.
Yeah, there was an edge to them, but also among those people. So in our video, you can see there are people who've climbed up onto the scaffolding overlooking the main stage. And they were.
Oh, wait, no, I'm not going over there. What am I doing?
Up there,
what am I doing?
Whatever.
I'm in the water.
When they saw me, they started shouting and waving constantly, So just because they were rowdy, like I'm a first-generation immigrant. Like if they were like far-right racist. I don't think they'd be celebrating my being there or wanting to get my attention or whatever. And that was actually walking through the crowd. You saw it. It was quite difficult for us to
saw it
because just of the pure number of people who wanted to.
Making them drawings. Oh, I think that.
Now, I don't think I've seen.
Mine's done. Look at green area.
Particularly friendly to them because we're not.
Get out. That is neat.
With the general.
I should have it
We also saw Ali Yemeni, who's a friend of Tommy's.
Let's go with this.
Australian YouTuber. He had a confrontation with a couple of people who were actually there.
Here.
But they were there because Tommy Robinson's pro-Israel and they wanted to express their disagreement with that.
Do I have enough key fragments to get into this vault?
But I don't think they were there to support the protest. I think they were there to...
Can you reuse key fragments, or did they get used up when you go into each vault?
Obviously,
I assume they got used up.
Talk about whether it was far right or not.
So I guess it's
now, it's sort of... I mean, I think, first of all, you have to always have your definitions right in these situations. For me, far right is openly racist, neo-Nazi party like the...
I was just saying.
Sometime
Perfect.
Right? That's what I would mean by the far right. Would you accept that definition, or do you have a different one?
No, I accept that definition pretty much.
So by that definition,
turn this off. And oh my! Oh!
Well.
I did didn't even know you were on.
Dude.
I'm glad you texted me, because I was just saying like 10 minutes ago, I was like, man, I wish my like D's was on. Everybody's fucking working.
You sound like a robot.
Am I roboting you, dude?
You sound like a robot?
Alright, hold on. Fuck! Alright, I'll probably have to come back to stream. Hold on. Might have to come back. Let me see. Let me see if this will work. I might have to switch my headset and then I'll start streaming. But